Hey everybody, it's LTM here. I'm at the Hall Cinema 7 right now, and I'm about to go watch two movies. Trolls and Thanksgiving. Trollsgiving, guys. Yep, I'm totally doing this. So first I'm going to go watch Trolls. And basically, want to give you all a heads up. I'm not really the biggest fan of the Trolls movies. I've seen the first two, but they never really caught my attention. Excuse me. What I mean to say is that, they weren't really my thing. I found them very frustratingly average, you know? At least with some of the newer franchises like The Croods or The Boss Baby. Whether you like those movies or not, those movies at least had some layers to it. I thought they had ideas. They kept my attention. Trolls was just a very generic kids film. Though the one thing you also got to remember is that I was in high school when the first Trolls came out. I was probably like a sophomore, I think. So I wasn't really the right age to see this film when it first came out. So I watched it when I got out of high school because, well, I can watch whatever I want now. Because you have to be careful about what films you got to watch in high school. Because, you know, when you're a sophomore in high school, you don't want to watch dancing, singing trolls on the big screen. So I watched them after high school, and they're just okay. They're not bad films. I refuse to say they are bad. They have creative moments, and they have some good people working on them. But they're just generic kid stuff to me. So now we have this third Trolls film. And I think, judging by the trailer, it looks interesting because I love the direction they're going with this. And it looks cute enough, so I'm going to give it a chance. So when I come back, I'll try to give you all my thoughts when I come back, depending on how long I have for my next film. But then again, I have other things to do after this movie, so we'll see how things go. And this is LTM, and I'll be right back. Hey guys, it's LTM here. So yesterday or last night, I went and saw two films. One of them was Trolls, and the other was Thanksgiving. I didn't have time to do the in-between vlog during the movies, so this is the best I can do, and it was getting late that day. So I'm just going to go ahead and, as I'm recording this, it is Saturday, so I'm going to go ahead and just get this out of the way. So let's start out with the Trolls movie first, and then I'll come back later and do Thanksgiving later, talk about that film. So like I said at the beginning of this video, Trolls was not something I grew up with, or I'm not really a big fan of. And going into it, I try to keep an open mind, and honestly, how do I put this nicely? It's not great. It was not very good. But on the other hand, much like the other films, I kind of expected it. I mean, the thing is like, okay, let's start from the beginning. So Branch, played by Justin Timberlake, and Poppy, played by Anne Kendrick, I think is her name. I can't remember the actress that plays her. They are both getting ready for a wedding, and they got these two you got the Goblin King and the Goblin Queen, who are both getting married. But then all of a sudden, Branch's brother, who I guess is played by I can't remember the band's name. I can't say the title of the band's name because, like, it's a hard word to pronounce, but you got Branch's brother coming in saying, hey, your brother's in trouble. There's like these two pop trolls or whatever like that. They're two monster trolls that are using their troll singing power to make them sing better and perform well. So it's up to Branch and Poppy to go on this quest to search for Branch's long-lost brothers so they can go save one of his brothers. It's a little weird and odd. And then along the way, they meet Poppy has a sister, which, honestly, comes out of nowhere during the middle of the movie, and it doesn't really add up a whole lot, but whatever. So, Trolls 3, how do I put this? It's a hard word to recommend, or a hard movie to really grab into, because the thing is about Trolls is that it's not good, but I kind of get it because it is technically made for a very little specific audience. Like, even Paw Patrol, which, yeah, I'm not really a big fan of Paw Patrol, but at least the Paw Patrol movie I saw recently, at least it had some merit to it. There was effort. There was no effort put into the writing in this. The story is just really dumbed down. It didn't grab me. It's all just done for kids. That's all this movie is. It's kids. The story is really dumbed down. The animation, for the most part, is pretty good. It's very bright and colorful and bouncy. It'll keep the kids' attention, but the animation is a little too fast-paced, like really fast-paced, like boom, boom, boom. This scene goes, it's very quick. Like the scenes go quick. The character animations are quick. It's very fast-paced, and it doesn't really take a break every once in a while. And the characters, for the most part, are just one note, kind of generic. I didn't really care much about Branch, honestly. I found it very unlikable in this. Honestly, I never really liked him as a character at all. But either way, I didn't care much for the characters in this. Except for one, I did like Tiny Diamond, but that's probably because he has the funniest and best parts of the film, strangely enough. The soundtrack is pretty good, but nothing special. And the humor was very juvenile. Well, maybe not as juvenile as the first two films, but still pretty juvenile. I didn't care. I didn't laugh much in this film. Besides some of the moments from Tiny Diamond, even the villains are just very cookie cutter villains. I didn't really care much about their motivation or their personalities or things like that. Very generic. I guess what I'm trying to say is that for a movie that's specifically made for children, it's not really something I can get really mad about, honestly. The movie's not good. I give it like a 5 out of 10. Spoiler. That's a 5 out of 10. It's just very mediocre, very forgettable. I'm not going to remember it anytime soon. But the thing is, it's one of those movies where I really can't get mad at it. It's just there just so it can kind of be there. Though the sad thing is that this is DreamWorks Animation. I mean, this is like the king and the king of animation and Disney's biggest rival. One of Disney's biggest rivals, actually. You would think they would do better than this, you know? It's like, I mean, especially with last year, we had Puss in Boots 2 and The Bad Guys, which, whether you like those movies or not, they were kind of a good step in direction for DreamWorks. Like, it looked like they were going for a different direction with their films. But that's not the case with this film and Ruby Gillman. Both, well, Ruby Gillman ended up bombing at the box office, but even I found that one slightly better than this film. This film, honestly, is kind of a shame because, like I said, it's DreamWorks. I love this company. I've loved them ever since I was a kid. I love some of their older franchises. But it don't look like DreamWorks is going to be heading to that other path we thought we were hoping. And if you're going to do a sequel, because I know they had quite a few sequels planned, like we got a Shrek 5 that was announced, a Madagascar 4, a Boss Baby 3. I heard rumors about a Crude sequel. I think that, I mean, I'm not going to go full into detail on that, but that's just a rumor. And I've heard actually interesting things about this Captain Underpants movie. It's not technically a sequel, but more like a spiritual successor called Dogman, which sounds interesting. It's just, most of the sequels I mentioned before, I really don't think we needed. I think they're only just going to do it, most of it just for nostalgic purposes, or just trying to cash in on the success of their predecessors. But the thing is, if you're going to do a sequel, I would rather do a sequel to some of the movies that would deserve, that were actually pretty underrated. Like, I would love to see DreamWorks do a sequel of Megamind, or Over the Hedge, or The Prince of Egypt, or even The Road to El Dorado, which, yeah, the movie wasn't a hit when it came out, but I'd love to see a sequel to that, or spiritual successor, or something else. Something like that. But with Trolls being the big thing right now, and I guess they just announced a 4th film, it don't look like we're going to get stuff like that anytime soon, which, like I said, is a shame because I love this company. And then again, I've seen worse from them, too. I mean, we had stuff like Shark Tale and Shrek the Third, which, in my opinion, Shrek the Third is hands down the worst DreamWorks film. And then they had mediocre stuff like, it's not as mediocre as, say, Home or Abominable, but it's not good, honestly. And the Trolls films are just kind of just average at best. But then again, I have the same opinions about this movie as much as the first one. It's just very standard. Even the second movie at least had some merit to it. Like there were some ideas. The second one had better ideas and better character dynamics than the first film and this film. So I'm hoping in the future DreamWorks will hopefully go back to a different path with their films, because even I understand Hollywood's not in a very good shape right now. There's been a lot of bombs out lately. But I would love to see DreamWorks take a different direction with their films, just like they did with Puss in Boots and Bad Guys. And I hope they get better. So, overall, all I'll say is, Trolls 3 wasn't my thing. If you do like these movies, if you're one of the few adults out there that love these movies, I totally get it. I understand. I respect your opinion. This was just not my thing. Now, I'm hoping, like I said, if DreamWorks would get better and maybe start making new stuff or sequels to movies that would actually deserve a sequel, I would love to see that. But for now, we're going to stick with Trolls. And so overall, like I said, it's not good, but I'm not mad at it. That's the thing. It's not good, but I'm not mad at it. It is what it is. It's going to entertain the kids, and it's probably going to do pretty well up here. So I guess if you have kids, obviously, this is fine. If you're an adult that just can't stand these kind of movies, this is definitely a skip. I can't recommend this to anybody except for the kids. So I'll give it that. So like I said before, overall score, I give it a 5 out of 10. Just mediocre. It's not the worst of the year. I didn't do review movies that I thought were actually worse, honestly. Like that one film with Liam Neeson is probably the worst film I've seen this year. I forgot the name of it, but yeah, it's not the worst. It's just the most mediocre, honestly. I mean, it's slightly better than something like, say, Insidious 5 or Meg 2, but that's but I found those more disappointing than I did mediocre, honestly. This is just forgettable. I'm not going to remember it anytime soon. All right, guys, so that's Trolls 3. I'll be right back for the Thanksgiving review. If you just sit tight, I'll be right back. Hey guys, I'm back. So I just took a little bit of a break from reviewing Trolls 3. Now I'm going to give you all my quick thoughts on Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving, since I didn't really talk about it much in the first half of this video, I might as well go and talk about more of it here. So Thanksgiving was, from what I understand, is based on a mock trailer that was from the movie Grindhouse. For those who don't know, Grindhouse was a movie mostly directed by Quentin Tarantino and what's his name? Robert Rodriguez. Both directed both films. It was like a double feature film and was paying homage to the 1970s films. And during the half of that movie, there would be these fake mock trailers, like mostly the ones directed from Rob Zombie and Eli Roth. One of them being a Thanksgiving parody trailer. And because of that, while Grindhouse was not a big hit, it did better in home media sales and has since gained a cult following among the horror genre, for anybody fans of the horror genre. And basically, over the years, it has gained a following. So, of course, for a while, they've been wanting to make a film based on one of these mock trailers for a while. Eli Roth is the director and was also the guy who created the idea. And he basically comes in later and he's like, yeah, I can make a movie based on that. So after so many years of development hell and trying to make this movie, how did it turn out? Not gonna lie, this is the best horror film of the year, hands down. Is it perfect? Not really. I mean, there's one major problem with it, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But let's get to the movie itself. So you got these teenagers, it's Black Friday, and everybody starts going into a riot. It's Black Friday, it's Thanksgiving, everybody's going into a riot, but then during that riot, a lot of people end up getting killed during that riot because, you know, it's Black Friday and everybody's crazy. But then you got about a year later, there's this killer who's going around killing people, and I guess, judging by the killer and his perspective, he wants revenge on the people that killed, that ended up ruining Black Friday and why all the stores are closed and things like that. But then you have these teenagers from last year who end up finding out about these murders, and the police and them are trying to figure out who's doing all this and who this killer is. And as the movie goes on, now, I wasn't particularly legitimately scared as the movie was going on, but I was entertained. The movie, that's the best way to describe it. It's entertaining. And I mean literally, because freaking kudos to this movie. I had no idea where it was going to go. And I like movies that do that. They like to make me constantly guess. So the story is really engaging, really cool, very interesting. The characters, yeah, they're basically your typical teenage stereotypes that you've seen before, especially the jerky ones. But it almost reminds me of the movie Scream in that sort of sense, where, yeah, they're trying to do, it is a horror film, but it's also trying to be a satire of horror films. Not like in a scary movie sort of sense where it doesn't take itself literally seriously at all. I mean, something like Scream, where it's trying to be both a dark comedy and a horror film. And that's kind of where this movie comes from. And in fact, I could probably safely say this is like the decade's equivalent to Scream. Like, this is pretty much, we haven't had nothing like this since Scream, so I got to give the movie credit for that. But the characters, yeah, they're cookie cutter and very typical, stereotypical teenage kids. But to be fair, they add some new fresh of air to it. Like, you know what I mean. But the movie, it works pretty well. There are a couple jump scares. Like I said, while I wasn't scared, I was entertained. I was really interested in the characters and things like that. And the movie was a lot of fun for the most part. My only problem with this movie, and this is the only reason what kept it from getting the 10 out of 10, was the ending. I thought it was a little bit rushed. I wish they could have done more with the ending and maybe could have done a little bit more of a climax. But then again, you don't want the movie to be too long. Understandable. The acting for the most part is pretty good. And I love the fact that it doesn't feel like a Halloween or Friday the 13th ripoff. It feels like its own thing. Because when I saw the title for this, like, yeah, it sounds like they're doing like a Halloween thing where it's set during the holiday and it's just people getting murdered and stuff. But Thanksgiving adds its own thing. It has its own flair to it. It's being its own thing and it has its own identity. So at the very least, Thanksgiving is pretty much its own thing. It doesn't feel like a ripoff. Like, it doesn't feel like a Halloween ripoff. It is its own thing. So overall, if you haven't seen this film, go check it out. It just came out in theaters this past weekend. I highly recommend it. If you love those old horror films from the 70s and 80s, like Halloween or Friday the 13th, you'll probably dig this movie out. Or if you want to see a movie that's just really a satire on the holiday itself, because that's where this movie technically starts out with. It's more like a commentary, but if you want to see something like that, go watch this film. I highly recommend it. So overall score, 9 out of 10. It's a great movie. If it wasn't for the rushed ending, I would have loved it a lot more. This could have been a 10 out of 10 best horror film in the past decade. And that's not to say the film's bad. It's really good, but that ending kind of ruined it a little bit for me. But I still highly recommend it. It's probably the best horror film I've seen all year. Alright guys, that's Thanksgiving, or Trollsgiving in this case. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done these double feature movies, hasn't it? I think the last one was Saw Patrol a couple months ago. But I hope you all enjoyed these reviews. Enjoyed these reviews. What movie did you go see this weekend? I'm really curious. Please subscribe, comment below, let me know. The Zell team signing out, and I'll see you guys later.